the next generation of lifestyle awareness that will transform your life significantly. Hi, welcome to Living Wow Out Loud. I'm your host, Callie Rae, founder of the Living Wow Center and author of the book, 8 Lessons Lupus Taught Me from Surviving to Thriving with Autoimmune Diseases. Living Wow is a lifestyle of choice and intention that was born from the truth that, number one, your body is designed to heal if you give it the environment to do so. Number two, you don't need a label or permission to be the expert in your own body. And number three, more than 80% of all diseases can be prevented or reversed by lifestyle. Unfortunately, this isn't what we're taught in our standard American diet and lifestyle culture. This podcast is a voice of hope and community where you will learn how to live a life of thriving that honors and embraces those three truths. Though you are an individual, you are not alone, and you can thrive living wow too. Today is the first episode of the interview format. So I could not help but invite my guest today has been actually in this process essentially her entire life and was the catalyst. If you read the Living Wow Summer Challenge, the history, I think it was episode maybe 7, a couple of weeks ago. You will know who I'm talking about. And there's some really funny videos on YouTube from
they're so bad.
From the initiation of Living Wow Stonehouse style. And that's actually what happened. So just to introduce you, Jenna Rae is my youngest daughter, and she was actually 3 years old when I started my health transformation journey that I write about in 8 Lessons Lupus Taught Me from Surviving to Thriving with Autoimmune Diseases. So she has a really unique perspective. And like I said, it was 2018 was when the book was published. And so later that summer, as of course I'm rolling out what being an author looks like and consumed by all things thriving at that point. My family was having this conversation amongst themselves about knowing that they needed to live healthier and get on track. And of course, I took that opportunity to capitalize on their motivation and said, hey, let's do a summer challenge because I'm all about the seasons, and the summer season is a great time to effect change because there's just a lot of growth and action that happens in summer. Like I said, I wanted to capitalize on that. And so I said, hey, let's do a Living Wow Stonehouse style challenge. Let's do it for the summer. Let's do it from June 22nd until September 21st, right? That's the summer season. And this little girl was, I think, 11 or 12 at the time, and, so into YouTube. And she's like, hey, let's vlog it. And that will, I'm thinking, well, there's some accountability. But because she had that insight and desire, we started a YouTube channel called Living Wow Stonehouse Style. And oh my goodness, it's painful to watch now. It's kind of probably how it'll be when we look back at our podcasts in 5 years. We'll think, oh, yeah, that was cringy. But I wanted Jenna to be my first interview for Living Wow Out Loud because she has been such an inspiration for so much of Living Wow without her even knowing it. It's really taken it from my own personal lifestyle journey as an individual to what transformation meant to my kids as a mother, and then what that's meant to others who are surviving and struggling with autoimmune disease. It really has led my passion to share this. So welcome, Jenna Rae. Today is the other reason I wanted it to be her to be the first guest, and for it to be this specific episode is that today is her birthday. Yeah. So happy birthday.
Thank you.
Sweet 17. I don't know how that happened. And if you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. The time just goes way, way, way too fast. And when I realized that she's been, a part of this from the beginning. So, Miss Jenna Rae,
Hi.
welcome to Living Wow Out Loud. I guess the first thing I want to know from Jenna that is unique, that I don't think there's a single person other than my other 2 children who are not in my home anymore. They're both married. So I don't have as easy of access to say, hey, can we schedule an interview?
The other 2 kids do. I remember I've heard stories from them about, like, you being so mentally and physically exhausted and always, like, I remember them telling me stories about that, but I've never experienced you coming home from work being so exhausted that you just have to go sleep for the rest of the night and you don't have, like, any energy or anything. I've never experienced that, but I have experienced learning about and kind of putting together Living Wow and, like, bringing it up, and then after you'd been living it for years, like, bringing up a brand with it, and I do, like, remember all of that.
All right. So with that, what is Living Wow to you?
Living Wow it's definitely a lifestyle, and I know that's a big part of the brand is it's not this fad diet, it's not like you have to do this, this, and this. It's not like you becoming, like, a gym rat, it's not you becoming, like, this, like, health person, like, it's not any of that, it's literally a lifestyle, and it's based on how you feel, and it's health and, like, feeling good versus
Yeah, it's based on the environment and creating that healthy environment to support you and putting real fuel in, not counting your macros or knowing your calories. Although, I mean, certainly those are things that we consider, but it's not the focus. The focus really is on food as fuel, food as medicine, creating a healing environment for your body, your mind, and your spirit, for sure. So, as a child, and from your perspective, what is the hardest thing about living well?
I would definitely say well, I feel like now it's not as hard, like, being a teenager, it's not as hard as it was, like, as, like I don't know what age group that is. From, like, the ages of, like, 8 or 9 to, like, 13, 14, I feel like is when it was, like, the hardest because I'd been growing up in, like, this house of, like, living wow, and my friends hadn't, and so it's, like, we come, like, to hang out at my house when I'm 10 years old, we come over, and it's like, "Oh, you have nothing to do, you have no food in your house," which we did, it's just not what we didn't have frozen pizzas in the freezer, and we didn't have video games to sit and play for hours, like, that just wasn't but that wasn't weird to me because I never grew up that way, but to other people, that was, like, strange. But I think the older I got, the easier it got because I feel like as a teenager, we don't, like, just go over to someone's house and, like, we need to have, like, an activity planned and stuff, like, we just wanna be around each other and have each other's company, and we don't necessarily need I don't know, we're just more independent, so what's in my house versus their house isn't a factor of us, like, having a good time hanging out.
So maybe you're just recognizing that everybody's different in their own way. And so it's
Yeah.
not that big of a deal if you don't have the same food in your pantry as other people.
Yeah, and, like, no one cares anymore, and I feel like everyone's houses are so different now, like, than when we were all growing up, we had, like, our siblings and we had, like, a structure, I feel like that was more similar, but now that we're teenagers, I feel like we've all gone through a lot of things, parents have been divorced, parents have gone through, like, cancer and, like, diagnoses and, like, stuff like that, and that we weren't dealing with then, and so now it doesn't matter that you have nothing to eat at your house, that like, it doesn't matter that there's nothing to do because it's just like, we're hanging out, I'm supporting you, we're friends in and outside of school, like, it's not that deep anymore.
All right. And just to clarify, I don't want people to think I'm starving people on Living Wow. We do have food.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's no frozen food in the free. There's no frozen pizza in the fridge. If we're gonna have pizza, we're gonna make it. And if we're gonna have snacks, we're probably going to make it's usually going to be fresh fruit. That's by far the go-to when I do hear from Jenna. There's nothing to eat in the house. It's like, well, and we list off. There's all the nuts. There's all the fruits. There's all the veg. There's all the. I mean, there's you can always throw a smoothie together in our Vitamix. Yeah, it's absolutely. There's abundance of food, but it is different. It looks different, and so when a child comes and looks in the pantry and doesn't see boxes and bags, they only see the flowers or the or the seeds or the nut butters or whatever. To a child, they're like, well, there's nothing to eat in the house. So I shouldn't even say to a child, because I've had my husband have that same response sometimes. So so the hardest thing for you was just kind of maybe processed food is with autoimmune disease, and how it's there's two triggers that I identified really early on for my autoimmune diseases, and one of them is processed food and the other is stress. And so both of those things are the fastest way to a flare. And my whole mission, since I was choosing to manage it without medication, the whole mission was to understand and recognize my triggers for the food and for the stress, and try to and that's how Living Well was born. It was created by getting in front of those triggers so that it wouldn't trigger a flare. And it's not perfect. It's still a work in progress. But one of the things that I did was when I go grocery shopping, I don't buy those foods, because if they're in my home, I'm going to eat them. And that's just that sad life that's just all around us and so much easier to consume. And I fall back into autopilot. So that's what you're referring to with no food. It's not that there is no food on Living Well, but just that the easiest way to create a healthy environment is to leave the other garbage out. And then we reach for something. We fill it so good with the good, so full with the good stuff that there's no room for the bad stuff. So with that said, Jen, what do you think the best thing about Living Well?
I would say my whole life I've had a really good understanding about what total health looks and feels like, and I've been able to know my body better. And so health class, pass that every time. And I don't know, I just feel like, I don't know, influences in your life. You get told a lot of things about what you should and shouldn't do with your body, what you should and shouldn't eat, and how much or how little you should like work out, whatever. Like I feel like you get told that a lot growing up. But I feel like I had a pretty good understanding of what's true and what isn't, because I think a lot of people that are telling you those things don't actually know what they're talking about. And so, I don't know, I feel like my whole life I've had a pretty good understanding about what feeling good and being healthy is like. And I think I'm blessed to be able to have had that growing up my whole life. So.
Was that you remember the first time you ever took an antibiotic? How old were you when you
I
tell that experience was so funny, because with the older kids, while you're thinking about that, I caught her off guard. But when my oldest daughter was on antibiotics as a prophylactic due to a urinary tract deformity, and she was, so from 2 months until she was 8 years old, she was on daily prophylactic antibiotics, which is mortifying to me now. And the difference between that, Christopher had asthma, and so he was in a lot of treatment. So just the older kids and even how they were treated, and their health, which was secondary, right? Because it was mine that, in our self-centered, selfish, sad world, it was me who was trying to heal and manage my autoimmune diseases. But the side effect benefit for my family was that our medicine cabinet looked completely different and really doesn't have much in it. I can count on one hand, literally, the number of times that we've had any prescription medication in the past 10 years. So yeah, how old were you?
I think I was like 10, and it's actually still to this day the only antibiotics I've ever had. And it's because I had strep. I thought I had cold, like, and I was like fine. And then my mom came home, and I was like, I can't swallow, I am dying, and I was in a lot of pain. And so we went to the emergent care, which also the first time I'd ever been there for me. Still haven't been really in a hospital, so that's good. But went there. They said I had strep, got antibiotics, and I just remember waking up and I was like, I'm a new person. Like I feel perfectly fine, and they work super well. You hear about other people that have taken antibiotics and they're like, what? It doesn't work that well. But
Yeah, you're an example of, medication is not, I kind of bemoan it, and people may think I'm anti-medication, but I'm not. I'm anti-SAD, the way that we use medication. We overuse it. We use it as a Band-Aid or as a to cover up symptoms rather than to get to the bottom of it. So antibiotics were meant to be used for infections on rare occasions that are serious and that need to be, they're not meant to be given every time we have a sniffle or a cold, because those bacteria build up resistance to that, and they don't even work on viruses. So an interesting dichotomy between or comparison between you and your siblings. And it comes back to Living Wow. And I think that was actually before Living Wow was even a thing again, but it was definitely, it's been a lifestyle in our home pretty much your whole life. So as we wrap up here, what advice would you give to someone who is living with autoimmune disease? And obviously someone who has autoimmune disease, because you don't, but as a child of someone who does, you've experienced it both as, again, as a family member, and then like we just talked about, you don't have autoimmune disease, but you've had some benefits from Living Wow. So you want to share what advice you would give to somebody?
I would say just try it, because there's no harm in trying it. If you don't see results, or you don't like it, then stop. Like it's not like this program that you have to be on for the rest of your life. Like it's not that crazy or anything. It's literally just changing a couple lifestyle choices that can change the whole dynamic of your entire life for the good. And so it's like, I would say just try it, because if you don't try it, then you're still going to be in the same spot you were. But if you do try it, then it could benefit you. And if it doesn't, then you don't have to continue. Like it's not this huge commitment you're making, and it's probably likely that you'll feel better and you'll want to continue. So
good advice.
Yeah.
So a little bit of hope, maybe, because I think that's the whole purpose is, I'll be interested to maybe do another interview with another family member who has experienced the surviving and the struggle. And I guess, if I think about it, you did a little bit, because during COVID, I really went backwards and I had a lot of the pain and I gained the weight, and
So did I.
I had a lot of the struggle, and maybe that's why we don't think about it, because basically the whole world was going through. But we really fell back into SAD as a family, as a whole, because of just the fear and the scarcity mentality that was all around us. But we came back out of it. And I think, again, just seeing how quickly we were able to go back into the WOW lifestyle and back into thriving, back into activity and thriving, and just feeling much better, rather than just that depression and struggle that we have in the SAD life. So thanks, Jen. It makes a mama proud to see that, even though, don't be fooled. She is an absolute typical teenager who has the same absolute struggles as every other typical teenager. It just warms my heart to see that that she understands and knows what it means to live her best life and to be true to herself, and to maybe have some tools and some knowledge about what living her best life looks like, because of growing up and being exposed to this, what is now Living Wow, in which she's very much been a part of. So thanks for coming, and happy birthday, sister.
Yeah.
Hey, if you find value here on the Living Wow Out Loud podcast, will you please share it with your friends and take a minute to rate it on the platform that you're listening on? That's how we live WOW out loud. You know that more people need hope, and they need the messages shared. And that's how we get recognized among all the noise. This is where you find your voice. Will you please share and subscribe and rate so that we can grow? After my personal transformation from surviving to thriving with autoimmune diseases, I was completely astounded that the experience was not what I expected it to be. Instead of resenting my body and being forever trapped with a legacy of bad genes, as I had believed would be my fate, I looked and felt 20 years younger. I had dropped weight that had plagued me for decades, eliminated chronic pain that no doctor, therapy, or medicine could relieve, and found energy that I hadn't had since I was 16 years old. Because this is not what I expected, and because I wish someone would have told me that there is another way than sad, I wrote the book, 8 Lessons Lupus Taught Me from Surviving to Thriving with Autoimmune Diseases. As I began to share the book and the message of change your story, Living Wow was born. After years of continuing to learn and study how and why lifestyle has such an impact on disease and the world being torn apart by a global pandemic, I can't stand by any longer keeping it to myself. You have to understand that the power is in your hands. The power is in your body. The power is in your lifestyle. The Living Wow Center is a holistic wellness practice that utilizes the framework of the Living Wow lifestyle to identify system failures or maintenance needs. Whether you just need a tune up or a complete systems overhaul, we support you as an individual to get back out on the journey and living wow. We will work with you to determine levels of function, needs, tools, resources, and or providers that may be best equipped to guide you as you step out of the negative health cycle and turn it into a positive health cycle. The Living Wow Center offers a revolutionary, comprehensive approach to healing, coaching, and support that is necessary in our complex, sad world. Schedule your complimentary consultation today to see how Living Wow can support you. I'm super excited to announce Supercharge for you. We are changing the name of the Living Wow Challenge to more clearly represent the monthly support program where you take Living Wow for a 10-day spin. I know 10 days doesn't seem like much, but it is, and that's why it's now Supercharge. Living Wow Supercharge is a 10-day supported focus on eating a clean, nutritionally dense diet with intention as you jumpstart into the Living Wow lifestyle. You will feel lighter, more energetic, and empowered with your nutrition. You will experience the power of nutritional healing with less pain, more energy, and a better mood. The Supercharge includes a comprehensive 10-day seasonal menu, recipes, videos, quick start guides, and links to resources. You begin with a prep, then daily support, and wrap up with a review. This is the fastest, most immersive way to get started and feel the effects of Living Wow now. Right now, go to livingwowcenter.com. That's livingwowcenter.com to sign up now for the next Supercharge running the 1st to the 10th of the month. Early sign up ensures you a spot and gives you time to complete your preparation assignments as you gear up to Supercharge. Wow, you just finished another episode of Living Wow Out Loud. I hope you leave today empowered to live your best life and thrive. If you're ready to jump in and learn a little bit more about Living Wow, come check out the Living Wow Center. That's livingwowcenter.com. And maybe consider joining our next Living Wow Challenge. We run the 1st to the 10th of every single month. See you soon.